welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, W-I-Z-E. And my next guest, James Burden, is a bold voice in the public speaking and neurodiversity space. As the founder of Stuttering Blueprint, James has helped countless professionals and entrepreneurs who stutter to break free from avoidance and speak fearlessly in high-stakes environments. His approach combines proven fluency strategies with acceptance and commitment therapy, allowing clients to focus on message over perfection. With a mission to reframe stuttering as a unique form of neurodiversity, not a disorder, James is shifting the narrative and empowering others to own their voice, no matter how it sounds. Welcome to the show, James Burden. Hello.
Hi. Thank you for the introduction, Wes.
Thank you for being a guest, man. I appreciate it. All right, so let's just jump right into it. What inspired you to create Stuttering Blueprint, and how did your personal journey shape it?
Well, this is a little bit of a story. I was a lowly or a humble speech therapist, I should say, in a school for kids with learning disabilities, with a side specialty in stuttering, which I've been doing for nearly 20 years now. And I needed to break out. I went through like a lot of big changes, a divorce, a brain tumor diagnosis. I could no longer hear from my right ear, so I had to switch up my career. And I went out and I wanted to do stuttering. I wanted to go out, fix the world, and help everyone with their stuttering problem. And that turned out to be a misguided but wonderful start to the start of Stuttering Blueprint. And I tried to get everyone all excited about fixing their stutter. And I came to realize when I reached out to a past client that even though we'd worked on speech and I'd gotten him very, very fluent many years ago, fluent just meaning not stuttering. But when I looked at him through the screen, and he looked almost like he was apologizing. And he said, I don't know what happened. I slipped into old habits. I started avoiding words and sounds, and I feel like I'm back where I started. I don't use the techniques anymore. And I think after we talked for a while, he started to feel that when he used those speech techniques, he wasn't feeling authentic. And what I realized from what was one of my star clients was that fixing speech isn't the right approach. This isn't a medical model. This is something that needs to be looked at from a holistic approach, from the whole person, and what's going on in their subconscious, what's going on in their mindset, what's happening for them that makes speaking so challenging, and really getting at it from that underneath the iceberg layer.
How do you define real communication in contrast to just speaking fluently?
How do I define like good communication as opposed to fluency?
Yeah.
So you can feel it when somebody is communicating with you from their heart, when they're really trying to communicate with you. The body language says it. It's not like constant eye contact, but it's a presence. You know, the shoulders are back, the confidence is there. And whether a person stutters or not, when they are holding that kind of presence, no longer matters. The way in which it comes out of somebody's mouth doesn't matter as the manner in which they say it.
Okay.
Do they pause? Do they have conviction? That's what matters. And that can happen with stuttering, or it can happen without stuttering. And now that we're looking at stuttering as neurodivergence, much like ADHD, much like autism, although completely different, but in that category of just the normal spectrum of the way humans talk, the time to accept this in others and in ourselves when people stutter makes the difference in how they communicate in that present whole way.
Okay. Well, what does it mean to shift from avoidance to bold action, and how do you guide your clients and guide guide your clients there?
I want to acknowledge that avoidance is something that we all use to protect ourselves. So when someone who stutters is avoiding stuttering or avoiding situations in which they might stutter so that they don't expose their stuttering, they're protecting themselves. And that in itself is not such a bad thing. The problem begins to arise when that protection becomes more important than taking a chance, daring to be authentic. And it is not easy in this world, the way it is now, for people to just come out and own their stutter. There's a lot of myth, there's a lot of prejudice, and that becomes internalized. So the way I'm able to help people, invite people to come out of avoidance, is by examining, this is where we use acceptance commitment therapy as one of our mainstays. It is learning how to accept an uncomfortable feeling and let it pass and realize you're okay. That uncomfortable feeling may involve a stutter, it may not. But when someone is used to stuttering and when someone is used to the prejudice around stuttering, it becomes very difficult to do that. And that is what I'm able to help through looking at people's values, helping them decide what values are most important to them. And they make all the decisions when it comes to putting themselves out of their comfort zone, whether it comes to trying this kind of speech with this person. But that's what it really comes down to. It comes down to stretching those comfort zones and being okay in yourself, no matter how you speak.
How does the recognition of stuttering as a neurodiversity change the game?
For me, it changed everything. I mean, working with people with neurodivergence, neurodiversity, all my entire career, I've come to feel like it's absolutely, like, normal doesn't even begin to explain how integrated this is into my regular life. So for me, and the people that I've worked with for many years, people with neurodiversity are just part of the normal spectrum. Now, I worked in a school that was concentrated all of these kinds of kids so they could get special education. So I swam in these waters for a long time. And when I come out, and the day in 2023, when I realized that stuttering was in this category, it was like a mind-blowing moment. Like, why didn't I think of that? Obvious. This normal part of the spectrum. And I think it helps so much when we're able to look at people in this way as part of normal. All of those judgments, those pitying looks, all of those thinking things about stuttering that simply aren't true, they fall by the wayside when you realize it's just part of that normal whole. And I don't think that, for the most part, people integrated this information yet. This is still only 2023 when the experts came out with it. So it hasn't had a chance to land with people. And that's why I think it's so important. And I am grateful to be able to have this platform to talk about neurodivergence and stuttering and put those two things together. I didn't come up with this idea, but I do want to spread it.
Definitely. What's one of the biggest myths you wish people understood about stuttering?
You know, when I think about in its normalness, I want to compare it to something that you may initially think that doesn't connect. When people look at left-handedness these days,
Mm-hmm.
what do we think? Do you think anything of somebody being left-handed, does it cross your mind as being odd in any way?
No.
No. And yet, not that long ago, in our grandparents' day, in some of our parents' day, it was frowned upon to be left-handed. You had to learn how to use your right hand. In some cases, there was corporal punishment for using your left hand. It got a bit nasty. And it's the same kinds of things that people used to try with stuttering. And yet now, 20, 30 years later, we look at left-handedness as nothing. And this is the way I would love the world to look at stuttering. Like it's just a normal thing, just a normal part. And more important, the most important people to realize that is the people who stutter themselves, who are going around feeling broken. And yes, it can feel like you're broken when the world looks at you a certain way, when there's all of this myth and falsehood based around how you speak. I don't think though the rest of the world is going to come to that until people who stutter, much like the Stuttering Foundation, many good organizations are doing, are getting out there and normalizing it. But it takes a lot of voices, and society hasn't gotten there yet, but I strongly believe it will.
How do your clients react when they first stop chasing trying to be perfect and trying to speak perfectly? How does it, I guess, yeah, I basically want to know when they realize that, when you get them to realize that they don't really have to be perfect, they can just be themselves and just speak.
You know, a beautiful moment happened not long ago with one of my clients. She's on the younger side. I want to give away any identifying information, but she used a phrase with me, and I saw this look in her eye when she said it. She talked about, I think this is what she said. I said, I think I just need to let go. And when she said it, I had never used that turn of phrase with her, which is why I thought it was so powerful, and especially with her being young, to cotton on to this, because I don't tell clients how to feel. I try to help guide them to come to their own conclusions, and she got there on her own. This idea of, yes, letting go, but letting go is not necessarily easy, and we have to let go in steps, and we have to work towards letting go. But she figured it out, and when she figured it out, there was a light in her eyes and a releasing of the muscles in her shoulders. I could see her not sag in defeat, but just sort of go, oh. And it's not a one-time thing. You don't get to release once and then you're fine. It's like it's a process, and it's a practice of releasing. And so she's still in that process, but to see it happen in real time through the screen was magical.
Awesome. What strategies help your clients perform in high pressure speaking environments? Because you help people speak professionally.
Yes, and we do have speech techniques. Letting go is a part of it. Speech techniques, I tend to lead with the letting go because that's what I think in the long term is going to be the most effective. But many of my clients, in fact, I'd say more than 50%, come to me in a moment of crisis, and come to me when they've gone for a job interview and they've stuttered and they didn't get the job. And maybe they think that's because they stuttered, or maybe it was the energy they were putting off because they were worried about stuttering. Whatever it is, they've had some kind of crisis with speech. And when people come to me like that, you don't start with, it's okay, we're going to teach you to let go. You give them the tools that they can pick up and use. And if they choose later on, then let go when they're in a calmer spot. So for that, we use a very tried and true method that's worked for many, many years, called camper down. But with any kind of speech technique, any kind of technique, trick, anything that you want to use, it's okay to use it, but you have to come at it from the right place, or it becomes something that reinforces the very thing that we're trying to let go of. that if I don't speak a certain way, I don't speak right. That doesn't mean you're ready to go up and stutter in front of a board meeting. And so for that, we have tools, and Camperdown is a wonderful tool for that. And when you're okay to be in a situation, a public speaking engagement, and you're ready to wear a little bit of a mask to do that, then it's great. But if you try to wear that mask day in, day out in all of your social interactions, it becomes exhausting and it becomes a prison. So I am very careful in the way that I present my speech tools. They're there to help you get through a moment. They're not ideal for long-term use unless you are also beginning to accept who you are.
So how do you personally manage moments of high anxiety before speaking?
Oh, okay. So I have, and I did it right before I came on the show today. I do it every time. I don't know why. I still get butterflies, even though I've done this a bunch of times. But you get the little butterflies. So I do a grounding technique I learned from my own speech coach, Alyssa DeCaro. She does the ground core confidence approach. And I imagine a deep, still pool, like a cenote, like a cave, a massive cave with deep, still water. And I appear in a sort of a picture of myself at the top, and I feel myself dropping into this deep, still pool, and then coming back out, and then expressing from the heart. So these little visualizations, these embodiments, are very handy for getting you into the moment when you need to speak. And I used to have notes, I used to look at stuff, and now I just do that, and I come on and I answer questions and try to keep it real, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like sometimes guests, they want to send me questions, and I'm like, no, I rather, I've had people send me like a list of questions they want me to ask them, and I'm like, hey, whose show is this? Like, is it not
Well, this
yours?
one's good because you had me on, and I don't think we've exchanged more than a couple quick emails. So this is
Yeah.
it's raw.
Because I want a natural response. I don't like I want you. Yeah, I don't. They're not hard questions, but I just want a natural response. That's why I don't really discuss it before the show with anyone.
And if I could bring this back to stuttering for a moment, it is so hard for someone who stutters, who's still using avoidance, to be as authentic as they want to be while avoiding this word, avoiding that word, not saying this sentence, not saying what you want to say or what you mean to say, because if you say it that way, you might stutter. And living with that pressure must be like going on a podcast every day, every time you have a conversation, that same butterfly feeling. And just as I have learned to sit with that discomfort before coming on a podcast, it is something that needs to be sort of developed throughout the day. So it's a big thing to ask of someone, but it is very much possible.
Okay. What role does community play in the healing and growth process for adults who stutter?
Community is incredibly important. I really encourage my clients to meet up with each other, but I don't force it, because it's another one of those things that stuttering is such a barrier for. It's a barrier to community because people are trying to keep it private. They don't want this to come out. And there could be two stutterers in a room that would never know each other stuttered because they're so good at covering it. And so it's hard for community to form, although it certainly is forming. And there are stuttering communities online, Stuttering Foundation, many other ones like this, there where people are gathering. But the barrier to that is feeling like I don't want to be, if I go and I hang around other people who stutter, am I going to stutter more? I'm not ready to face that. So what I try to provide is the beginning of one-on-one service with someone who understands stuttering and helps you to get ready for that if that's in your path. And when it does start to happen, when people who stutter do get together, this is my vision for Stuttering Blueprint. Is I started, it gained momentum, and eventually I'm like, great, it's going, and it doesn't need me anymore, because there is so much of this sort of self-accepting community that it can just pick up and run on its own steam. That would be beautiful. And these are already appearing, and I want to help by adding one more such community.
What advice would you give someone who feels silenced by their stutter?
You know, I don't know if I would give them advice, because there is so much advice out there. What I would prefer to do is to give them an invitation to begin to know themselves, to begin to look at the parts that they've suppressed. And in many people's cases, when it comes to stuttering, the stuttering itself is suppressed. And all of those things, and I know this from my own life, those things you try to push down, the things you don't want to face. And for me, it was fear of failure, not wanting to fail as a husband before my divorce, and trying to hold it together and suppress those things. Those are the things that bubble up and come out through your unconscious in ways you can't predict. And so to look at that, to know it, to accept it, and to know that you are enough as who you are, no matter how you speak, that is the invitation that I would like to extend. And if people invite me to help them with that, I'd be honored to help.
Awesome. Do you think the business world is ready to embrace neurodiverse communication styles?
I absolutely do. I think we already are starting to see different companies making the most of all of the different types of neurodivergence we have. Companies that are employing people with autism, not out of some kind of like, I'm doing good by hiring you, but because they have skills that other people don't do as well. And people with ADHD have their own sets of skills, and people who stutter tend to be very intelligent. And so all of these people have something to contribute. And not only that, but the way that some people who stutter own their stutter is so effective when it comes to certain business kinds of interactions. If you are out there owning your stutter, it kind of shows you have nothing to hide. And if you have a product or a service that you want to sell and you have nothing to hide, that speaks volumes. So owning who you are as a person allows you to shine your light and shine light on the things that you care about.
How do you coach clients through the fear of judgment or rejection? Because I know that's one of the big things. A lot of even people who don't study, just like myself, I struggle sometimes with fear and rejection.
Oh, we all do. This is such a human experience. I mean, for me, I've gone through a lot of fear in this, like the fear of getting brain surgery. I got robbed on a bus while I was traveling this year, fear of not having any money on me, stuck in a country with no money, stuff, all those kinds of fears, and the self, how did I get myself into this situation? And those are maybe passing fears, but we also have those fears on the inside. And the fear of judgment that comes from the outside tends to be a mirror of the judgment we have of ourselves. And if we have learned not to judge ourselves, then the outside judgment matters not at all. Therefore, in order to come to terms with it, it is a matter of facing up to that shadow, that negative self-judgment in yourself. And then outside judgment ceases to matter. I'm not saying this is like a fast process, and this is why people need to take their time to come to this. And it's not a 12-week program in 3 easy steps. It's a slow kind of an awakening, if anything.
What's one of the most underrated skills when it comes to effective public speaking?
Pausing. And this is one of the most obvious. And when I get excited, I speak too fast. And when I get really into what I'm talking about, I want to tell you all about it. But the simple pause, which can be so helpful for someone who stutters, is something that is often tried to rush through. Ideally, when we are trying to speak publicly and get our message across, we pause, we speak slowly. But if we're afraid of stuttering, we tend to rush through it. Or if we're afraid we're losing the audience, we tend to rush like this. The pausing allows for people to actually process what's happening. And incidentally, it tends to reduce stuttering.
Awesome. How do you measure progress in your program, if not by fluency alone?
Progress used to be measured in audible stutters.
Okay.
Progress used to be measured in, did I go to my job interview and get through it without stuttering? Did I go to talk to somebody that I was interested in and speak without stuttering? And you would come back and you would get a big high five because you got through this moment without stuttering. Progress for me, and there are ways to quantify it, which we do and use to track, but really it's a feeling. It's a feeling of confidence, and it's a feeling of okayness, sort of wholeness. So how to measure that? I think the best way to measure that is not, did I go and engage in a speaking situation and not stutter, but did I go and engage it at all? Did I make the decision to take the risk that I might stutter? Did I take the risk? And if they stutter during it, that is progress too. Because if you go up and you put yourself out there, and maybe you're trying to stutter as little as possible, but you still do, and you just move through it and you're okay, that to me is a huge marker of progress, more so even than the fluency.
Okay. What legacy do you hope to leave through your work with Stuttering Blueprint?
Well, honestly, when it comes to myself, I'm not worried about legacy. But for Stuttering Blueprint, I would like the legacy to be a mantle that's picked up off of me and just continues to provide a space for people to feel okay, to test their limits, to push their boundaries, to feel whole and go back out into the world not needing to be perfectly fluent. Maybe improving a certain amount of confidence, but that improvement is not contingent on speech, on the way it comes out. the legacy I would like to see is lots of very confident people who stutter, whether they're stuttering using fluency techniques, whatever. I would just love to see people getting themselves out there and the world viewing stuttering as just a normal part of being human.
Yeah. I have a good friend of mine who stutters, and he doesn't do it all the time. He has his moments, but you can see sometimes that that you can see him sometimes struggle, but for the most part, he's been able to control it and live a normal life.
And so many people can do this, and it is so within reach. Many people have achieved this without any help whatsoever. But there are many people who, at least at this stage, don't have the confidence to put themselves out there, and that might be through trauma, that might be through little micro traumas. There's many good reasons why people aren't doing that, and I just would love to see that become easier to ask for help. Not because oh, poor me, I have this thing I need help with. More just like, I just need some help to feel okay in myself.
Thank you so much for being a guest. And it's funny how things work out, because before we were supposed to interview before, and you had technical difficulties, and today I had a cancellation, and last minute you popped in, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, I love it, because it's hard to, like, when you get cancellations last minute to find a guest. So it kind of sucks that when it happens. But sometimes you never know what happened. Like, with because I've had issues myself. I've had technical difficulties where my mic isn't working or my camera is giving me problems. So it's expected. It's like things would end up balancing out anyway. Is like you ended up being on the show today, so that was great.
I'm so glad it worked out. Oh, I was. Is it okay if I just let people know where to find me?
No. Time. You're about to get that time. You're about to get the
Okay,
solo
thank
screen,
you.
and you let people know where they can find you. Check out website, everything.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, so if you go to stutteringblueprint.com, it's very simple. I'm not here to pressure anyone into doing anything they don't want to do. It's just a gentle bug in your, if this has been like a heavy weight you've been carrying for a long time, and you just want to start feeling out whether it might be the right time to start thinking about doing something, come check out. You can send me an email, we can have a conversation, or if you just want to click the button on the website, I'll send you a gentle email once a week or so, and just to remind you I'm here. And if you want to take it further from there, we'll talk in the emails.
Awesome. Once again, thank you for being such a great guest. I greatly appreciate you. Definitely filling in this, saving my neck today. You saved me today because I didn't have a guest.
I'm
So,
glad it worked out.
oh yeah, yes, things happen for a reason. So yeah, it worked out, and I once again thank you for being such a great guest. If you ever want to come back on the show, let me know. If you start a program, write a book, anything, just let me know, and I would love to have you back on.
Oh, thanks so much. And I don't know, this might be a better conversation for after the show, but I can, I really like your energy. And if you would like to meet some of the other podcast hosts that I've been on, I'd be happy to introduce you.
Awesome. Yeah. Let me close out the show. We'll chat a little bit off the air. Definitely.
Sounds good.
All right. Don't leave just yet. Let me just close it out. All right, everybody. Another great episode is in the can. I greatly appreciate everybody's support. Please follow the podcast. We're on YouTube at Real Wise TV, as well as Stuck in My Mind podcast YouTube channel. Shout out to our Real Wise fan, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Shout out to the boss lady. Love you and appreciate you. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know, your boy Wise does it. Peace out.